Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here this evening. My name is Holly Brand, and I'm going to be helping to facilitate our webinar here this evening. Before I pass it over to our presenters for tonight, I do want to go over just a few quick reminders. First of all, your cameras, microphones, chat, all of that is going to be disabled during the webinar this evening. If you have any questions about the proposals being presented here tonight, please use that Q&A feature that's located on the bottom of your screen in Zoom. It looks like two little chat bubbles, and you'll be able to type your question into that box at any point during the presentation. But we will be answering all questions at the end of the presentation here tonight. If you would like to provide comments about the proposals being presented here tonight, please do so through our online portal. Any comments that we receive in the Q&A of Zoom will not be recorded. You will be receiving a follow-up email from Zoom at some point tomorrow, and that email will have some contact information about who to reach out to if you have any additional questions about the content that was being presented here tonight. That it will also provide you with links again to our online portal, as well as a link to our YouTube page where the recording of this webinar is going to be uploaded tomorrow as well. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to our presenter here for this evening. Michael, whenever you're ready.
Thanks, Holly. Good evening. My name is Michael Tennant, and I'm the Regulations and Policy Coordinator in the Inland Fisheries Division. The purpose of tonight's webinar is to present information to you about proposed freshwater fishing regulation changes for license year 2022-2023, address questions, and to provide information on where you can provide input on these proposed regulations. The Inland Fisheries Division will seek approval of the proposed regulation changes at the Texas Parks and Wildlife Commission meeting on Thursday, March 24th. If approved, these changes will be in effect September 1st, 2022. The first proposed change is for Sam Rayburn Reservoir, which is a reservoir on the Angelina River in Angelina, Jasper, Nacogdoches, Sabine, and San Augustine counties. Blue and channel catfish special harvest exceptions are in place for the reservoir. Texas Parks and Wildlife Department law enforcement has identified a need to establish the upstream reservoir boundary to delineate where these exceptions apply. Under current regulations, there is no delineated upstream boundary for Sam Rayburn Reservoir. The proposed rule change would delineate the upstream boundary as the Union Pacific Railroad Bridge to differentiate between the reservoir where special exceptions apply and the inflowing river. Texas Parks and Wildlife Department law enforcement has determined that this is both a readily identifiable landmark for anglers and an enforceable boundary. The location of this boundary is indicated on the map with the yellow line. Current county location for Sam Rayburn Reservoir is Jasper County, whereas the reservoir is actually located in 5 counties. The proposed rule change would modify the current county list for Sam Rayburn Reservoir to include Angelina, Jasper, Nacogdoches, Sabine, and San Augustine counties, which encompass Sam Rayburn Reservoir as depicted on the map. Lake Texoma is a reservoir on the Red River on the Oklahoma-Texas boundary. Special harvest exceptions are in place for striped and white bass, blue, channel, and flathead catfish. An upstream boundary delineation was requested by Texas Parks and Wildlife Department law enforcement to differentiate between the lake, where these exceptions apply, and the inflowing river. Under current regulations, the upstream boundary of Lake Texoma is not delineated. The proposed rule change would delineate the upstream boundary between the lake, where these special exceptions apply, and the inflowing river, seeking reciprocity with Oklahoma to the extent possible. Sycamore Creek was identified as a landmark that would be recognizable to anglers and enforceable. The location of this upstream boundary is shown with a yellow line on the map. Walleye were last stocked in Lake Texoma in 1977, and they have not developed a self-sustaining population, nor are they managed as a sport fishery. Fisheries management surveys in recent years have not detected this species, although there have been isolated angler reports of catches of walleye believed to have dispersed into the lake during flooding from upstream reservoirs on Oklahoma tributaries. Current regulations consist of special exceptions with a daily bag limit of 5 and minimum length limit of 18 inches. The proposed rule change would return to statewide standards as special exceptions are no longer needed, which would consist of the same daily bag limit and no minimum or maximum length limit, and a bag limit of 2 fish less than 16 inches in length. Also for Lake Texoma, there are proposed modifications to regulations regarding harvest of alligator gar during spawning season. Upstream areas on Lake Texoma offer important spawning habitat during flooding, and harvest is currently restricted in May in selected upstream areas. Due to regulation changes in 2021, Oklahoma now prohibits May harvest of alligator gar statewide, including all waters of Lake Texoma and the Red River. This poses an enforcement issue for law enforcement for both states, as it is difficult to pinpoint where a fish was harvested on the lake or river. Under current Texas regulations, May harvest of alligator gar is prohibited in the Hagerman National Wildlife Refuge and from US 377 upstream to I-35, roughly the areas encompassed by the yellow boxes on map 1. These areas were consistent with Oklahoma regulations until the recent rule change in 2021. The proposed change would expand the no harvest area for May to include Lake Texoma and all Texas tributaries of the Red River on the Texas-Oklahoma border in Cook, Grayson, Fannin, Lamar, Red River, and Bowie counties to alleviate law enforcement issues and ensure reciprocity with current Oklahoma harvest regulations as depicted on map 2. Bodark Lake is a newly created lake on Bodark Creek in Fannin County in North Texas, currently not open to the public. The department has stocked offspring of selectively bred Sheralunker largemouth bass with trophy potential in ponds in the reservoir footprint during construction, and additional fish are being stocked in the lake as it fills. The fisheries management goal for Bodark Lake is to develop top-of-the-line fishing opportunities and maximize the quality of fishing over the reservoir lifespan. It is important to provide protection to those initial year classes of stock bass, which will have already grown beyond 14 inches, as they have the greatest growth potential and are the most valuable spawning stock. For soon-to-be-open Bodark Lake, the proposed regulation would establish a 16-inch maximum length limit, 5 fish daily bag, and allowance for temporary possession of largemouth bass 24 inches or greater for weighing. Historically, red drum were stocked in some Texas reservoirs, including Coleto Creek and Fairfield. Coleto Creek Reservoir near Victoria was last stocked with red drum in 2001. Fairfield Reservoir, located east of Waco, which was a power plant reservoir until 2018, was last stocked in 2011. Fisheries management surveys have not detected this species in recent years, nor have there been angler reports, and it has been determined they are no longer present in these reservoirs. Current regulations for red drum for these reservoirs consist of a daily bag limit of 3, minimum length limit of 20 inches, and no maximum length limit. The proposed rule change would return to statewide standards, as the special exceptions are no longer needed, which consist of the same daily bag and a minimum length limit of 20 inches and a maximum length limit of 28 inches. Next, I'll talk about invasive carp prevention. Non-native silver and bighead carp, collectively called big-headed carps, have been found in some Texas waters in North and East Texas. Big-headed carp are filter feeders that compete with native fish and can have negative impacts on fish populations, and silver carp are known to leap up to 10 feet out of the water when startled by boat noise, sometimes striking boaters and posing a hazard. A big-headed carp population assessment is currently in progress on the Red and Sulphur rivers. As a result of both this project and angler reports, big-headed carps were documented in 2021 in all sampled Red River tributaries, which, although not previously documented, is not surprising given they are present in the Red River. There are currently regulations in place to prevent the transfer of invasive carp via bait bucket transfers. When small, these carp are very similar in appearance to shad and can be easily misidentified and transported as live bait, and introduction via that pathway into Lake Texoma, where they could potentially become established and problematic, is a significant concern. Current regulations prohibit live transfer of non-game fish from waters of the Red River below Lake Texoma to the Arkansas border, Sulphur River below Lake Wright-Patman, and Big Cypress Bayou below Lake of the Pines, including Cattle Lake. The proposed rule change would add tributaries of the Red River in those counties along the Oklahoma border to the list of designated waters from which live non-game fish may not be taken. The department has determined that an external administrative error in publication of rules in 2020 inadvertently resulted in incorrect largemouth bass harvest regulations for 9 water bodies in the Texas Administrative Code. Existing department publications and public information reflect the length and bag limits and special provisions intended by the Commission, and thus conflict with enforceable provisions currently in the Texas Administrative Code. Current erroneous largemouth bass regulations for 9 water bodies consist of a daily bag limit of 5 and minimum length limit of 12 inches. This correction will restore the intended harvest regulations for largemouth bass previously adopted by the Commission, which consist of a daily bag limit of 5, maximum length limit of 16 inches, and allowance for temporary possession of largemouth bass 24 inches or greater for weighing. Current striped bass species description contains references to white bass and subspecies. The proposed rule change would remove references to white bass and/or subspecies to more accurately represent the intent of the rules and to apply only to striped bass and their hybrids. As noted here, you can visit the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department website to comment on proposed regulation changes for 2022-2023. The Commission will meet on March 24th to review these proposals, take public input, and vote on the proposed changes. The meeting will be held at Texas Parks and Wildlife Department headquarters in Austin, Texas, and starts at 9 a.m. More information about the meeting will be posted on the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department website. Once again, proposed regulations approved by the Commission will start September 1st, 2022. That concludes my presentation for this year's proposed freshwater fishing regulations.
Thanks, Michael. And I'm not seeing anything in our Q&A right now. And we don't really have a ton of people on. So I do just really briefly want to still allow you guys time to put any questions you might have about the proposed changes into that Q&A if you would like to at this time. But I do also want to just, again, as a reminder, let y'all know that you will be getting an email from Zoom tomorrow with a lot of this information and details about how to contact us with any additional questions. And again, with links to those, the portal and where you can find this recording. So keep an eye out for that. And we'll give it maybe just another minute or two here just to make sure that we're not missing anything before we head out for the evening. So again, if you have any questions about any of the changes that were proposed here tonight, please feel free to enter your questions into that Q&A for us. I'm still not seeing anything. So Michael, I don't know if you have any last minute reminders that you'd like to say before we head out this evening. If not, we can go ahead and wrap it up here.
I don't have any
Perfect.
other reminders. Thanks,
Awesome.
Holly.
Yeah, of course. Thank you guys. And thank you for everyone who joined us here this evening. We appreciate it. Again, keep an eye out on our Facebook page, the Parks and Wildlife Facebook page for this recording. And you can also find it on our YouTube page as well. And it won't be our main YouTube page. It's going to be our Parks and Wildlife education page that this will be posted. So if you're looking for it at some point and you can't find it, that's where to look. So thank you guys again for joining us, and thank you to our Parks and Wildlife panelists who are here tonight. We appreciate it, and we hope to see y'all soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thanks, Holly.
Yep, no problem.